Welcome to the show. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And today we are discussing the show Severance from Apple TV+. We'll laugh. We'll argue. We might get a little too into it, but at the end of the day, they're just limited series.
Spoiler alert!
I guess it's not a limited series.
No, they're going to do season 2.
They
Anyways,
better.
we're the show that a recent 5-star review dubbed an amazing podcast, proving that the best arguments are concise.
It's not even an argument. It's just a statement. But
It's an
okay.
assertion.
I'll take it.
Next week, we are going to do Northman, the Northman.
The Northman.
Northmen?
Well, the Northman.
There's one. There's only one.
Okay. And guys, don't be mistaken. Don't have expectations that this movie is going to be like a super crazy action movie, Michael Bay. It's actually kind of surreal. So just
It's by Robert Eggers, who did The Witch and The Lighthouse.
Lighthouse was kind of out there.
Yep.
So it's that kind of movie. But today, we're doing Severance all day. Baby David. That's your new nickname. We're the parents
Baby
on this
David.
podcast. Baby David, what'd you give this movie out of 10?
I give this movie
No.
with just the right mystery to message ratio. Severance strings you along its entire run in the most satisfying of ways. Well, until the last 15 seconds, that is. Well,
What?
What the fuck? Fuck you, TV shows.
What in the world?
8.4 out of 10.
Where is this coming from?
I hate TV shows for the exact reason that this show exists.
Oh.
But we will talk about that after you
Sorry,
give
what was your rating?
8.4.
8.4. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah.
I liked it.
My
Riley.
slogan is, if I had to sever myself from every other show. Okay, I wouldn't want to do that, but it wouldn't be that bad because this show is really good. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I loved this show.
That's great.
Right.
Every time the episode ended, I just wanted to play the next one right away, and I couldn't because of time being a construct that controls our lives.
All right. It's Office Space meets 1984 with a wholesome dash of the Jesus. 8.5 out of 10.
The Jesus. Oh, cult stuff?
No, John Turturro.
Oh,
Lebowski.
Jesus.
I was like, religion.
Have we covered that? We should.
We should do Lebowski,
Lebowski?
someday.
Definitely.
But not this day. Today we are sponsored by Secret Lab chairs. I'm sitting in one right now. It's engineered to keep me comfortable for long hours at work and play and podcast. Their Titan Evo 2022 series chair offers 4-way lumbar support. On one of these levers, I don't know which one does it, comes with a magnetic memory foam head pillow and is offered
pillow.
It's offered in different upholsteries like hybrid leatherette, soft weave fabric, and Napa leather, the official leather of the UFC. I made that up with a 5-year extended warranty and 49-day return policy. You're covered if anything goes wrong. So learn more at Secret Lab. Learn more about Secret Lab at lmg.gg/secretlabtjm.
At their secret lab.
Deep in the deserts
Deep in the
of Nevada.
bowels of Lumen Industries.
Ah.
Lumen Incorporated?
We can only guess. Maybe they're not incorporated. Maybe it's a sole proprietorship.
Maybe,
Like from
maybe,
here.
maybe Elon Musk bought it.
Yeah, he's a Kier.
He is a Kier. Celtic for Dark One.
Why don't you give us the synopsis, Riley?
Okay, I could just keep talking.
We don't need your
Dude.
wasp lore.
My what? After the death of his wife, Gemma, history professor Mark Scout quit his job and eventually began working for the mysterious Lumen Corporation, undergoing the controversial severance procedure, which prevents employees from accessing their work memories while outside of work, and vice versa. This creates 2 distinct personalities, an innie imprisoned at work and an outie that never experiences work. So when Innie Mark's best friend, Petey, suddenly leaves the company and tells Mark's outie that nefarious things are going on at Lumen, Mark has no idea who he is. Petey explains he underwent a procedure to unsever his brain, leading to reintegration sickness that eventually kills him. Meanwhile,
Spoilers, Riley.
we gave a spoiler alert!
He's just joking.
Meanwhile, things are also getting interesting at Lumen, where Mark's team is overseen by Supervisor Milchick and floor manager Miss Coble, who also poses as Mark's next-door neighbor, Mrs. Selvig. Petey is replaced by Helly R., a new innie who tries to escape by killing herself, but eventually learns there is no way out. Irving, an elderly disciple of Lumen's founder, Keir Egan, begins a forbidden relationship with Bert, a worker from another department. And high achiever Dillon questions everything when his innie is awakened briefly in his outie's home using a technique called the overtime contingency. When Dillon shares this information with Mark, Helly, and Irving, the 4 conspire to awaken themselves in the outside world using a stolen security keycard. Dillon stays at the office to activate the contingency, allowing Irving's innie to discover that his outie is on a mission to expose Lumen and repeatedly paints images of a dark hallway and elevator. Helly's innie discovers that her outie is Lumen heir Helena Egan,
That was so
who
good.
severed herself as a publicity stunt. and Mark's innie awakens at his sister Devon's house in the middle of a hug with Miss Cobell, who had been helping new mother Devon as a lactation consultant. When Mark calls her Cobell instead of Selvig, she calls Milchick and rushes back to Lumen. Before Milchick can stop Dillon, Helly tells people at a Lumen event that the severance procedure is inhumane. Irving finds Bert's Audi and knocks on his door, and Mark finds a wedding photo of himself and a woman he knows as Lumen in-house therapist Miss Casey, but who is actually Gemma, the supposedly dead wife of Mark's Audi.
God.
He rushes to tell Devon and is able to say, "She's alive!" before Milchick tackles Dillon, deactivating the contingency. Cut to black, wait for season 2.
Season ends
Woo!
in media res.
What a great ending, though.
Opposite.
I disagree with you, David.
Opposite.
Why did you
Let's
like
not
that?
talk about
Yeah,
what
you're
you
right.
don't like
You're right,
first.
You're right.
Oh,
There's so much that I do.
I think the first thing we should talk about is the concept.
Yep.
This is a high concept
Yep.
series. High concept meaning we'll define this term because I thought high concept meant like highfalutin, pretentious, doopy-doo, literary kind of concept. But
Yeah.
a high concept movie is
it can
actually
mean that. It can.
it's actually kind of the opposite. It
Right.
means
You
like
can
this
describe it
movie
in
is
one
a
sentence.
blockbuster that I can say, yeah, it's a theme park full of dinosaurs.
Yep.
It's Jaws in space. That's aliens. It's
The whole world is
we're-
inside a computer.
you were going into your dreams to steal your ideas.
high here being a synonym for just good.
No, it's like
Good concept.
smoking weed high.
Ah,
420
yeah.
concepts, buddy.
They're all
So it's a
connected.
high concept movie or premise that I think is really attractive to people, especially people who are on r/anti work and
Yeah.
people who work.
I think it's super interesting because it's sort of a sci-fi in that like the high concept at issue here is like sort of a scientific procedure. It's a medical procedure that
Definitely.
people undergo, but at the same time, it is like placed very firmly in sort of like the mundane, drab, real world. They're not in space. People don't have superpowers. It's like normal human stuff. And it's like a great metaphor for things that we all have to deal with in terms of like being certain people at home and at work. So yeah, did that speak to you, James?
Yeah, it's a great concept because I think it speaks to everybody. Everyone who has a job is like, huh, that would be kind of cool. Or what would that mean for me?
Yeah.
And I actually thought that the premise, like that the show would go way different places than it did, than it focused on.
I didn't think it was going to go as dark as it did. I thought it was going to be sort of.
I thought it could be dark, but I thought they were going to be like, oh, the reason that you're going to forget what you do at work is because you're going to do some messed up stuff at work. And it was going to be more about the atrocities that they're doing at work, which this season did not focus on.
No.
Instead, they focused on, well, if you don't remember what happens to you at work, the corporation could do unto you some dastardly things at work. And the season's more about control.
Right. I feel like, oh, go ahead.
Or not, and I think it's also about identity too. I think that's the stuff that I didn't think about from the high concept is if you don't remember existing, you don't really exist outside of work.
Right.
And like as soon as they start talking about that, like, oh, like if you quit, you die.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, yeah, kinda.
Yeah, and when they say in the first episode to Helly, they say, hey, just remember, every time you like wake up or you come out of that elevator, you chose to be here that day.
Right.
But, well, who is you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't.
It really lent a sort of a morbid feel to Bert's retirement party when they're like, oh, they're all celebrating. Oh, Bert's retiring. Yeah, good for him. It's like, it felt like a normal work retirement party, but then there's this undercurrent of, that any Bert is dying. He's going to die.
I love that scene.
And but it's kind of funny because when you think about a normal job, when people quit at your work, it's almost like if you haven't like established enough of a relationship with them that you also are kind of friends outside of work now.
They're dead to you.
But many people like many relationships like that which have developed this out of work relationship still kind of like wither when people leave a job. So it felt really real, even though this is like a not real situation where they're like someone's dying because they're quitting.
Yeah.
It's
and
like people die.
when you retire, you get like such a net benefit to your life. You're like, I don't have to go to work at all. I don't have to experience it at all.
It's like a happy moment.
You get less of a benefit if you're severed because you already didn't have to experience work.
Yeah. Right.
But the benefit you get is that your waking hours of your life that you enjoy and remember, you get a couple more of them.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's a funny idea that you are like, okay, you don't have to work, right? It's like when you're an Audi, you don't experience the work. So in your mind, it's kind of like, well, at least all my free time, all my waking hours are basically leisure time. But at the same time, you're losing 8 hours out of every day.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're gonna die faster by your subjective.
I think they share some sort
estimation.
of mental resources too. Like even
Right.
in the first episode,
You see this immediately,
yeah,
actually.
Mark is like, oh, I never sleep, but sometimes it's really helpful to focus on like the fact that I feel rested.
Yes.
And so you know that like throughout the season they are sharing energy and like all these things. It's not
Yeah.
like they're
I
like,
want to talk a bit more about that
Yeah.
later on, but still on this point, a super drag though, even though you don't have to work all day, is that you still have to get ready for work and drive to work all day. How
Yeah.
stupid would it be if you're like, yeah, and now it's the time where I drive for half an hour and I drive for half an hour again, and then I get to continue doing what I was doing. I mean, he lives really close.
they should just turn him on when he
Yeah,
leaves
just
home.
work from home. Let the innie do the freaking commuting. God.
But then the innie can escape, and he can like, oh, I have a car, and he can like,
Well, I like that in the first episode when you're not really sure what the balance of like mental health is, and you see Mark arrive at work. So he pulls up, and you see him like you can tell he dreads going in. He's like
the first time you
dragging
see
his
Marcus,
feet.
he's crying in his car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's crying in his car, and he does not want to go in. And then when he snaps into consciousness in the elevator and walks out, he's like doing that 5-minute walk, but he seems kind of chipper, and he's like,
oh,
kind of
that's
okay.
interesting.
But
I didn't read that as
they-
him like not wanting to go in. I read that as just like he's depressed or sad in his normal life, and then it like they're just showing us that as a contrast between like in his real life he's sad, and in his work life he's like, I got my shit together.
Well, I think it's a bit
Yeah,
of both.
I agree with that,
Because I think
Riley,
it's kind of foreshadowing about his wife being dead.
Right.
At work, he has no dead wife.
But what they do show, even when he's kind of chippering, walking with his head held high, he's all chipper at work, he's walking through the halls, he does sniffle.
Yeah.
His physiology
Oh,
yeah.
doesn't change.
That's
You know,
cool.
Yeah.
that's why they have these schisms in their mind about they know that the Audi's feelings towards
Yeah.
them being in there.
It's like being in a carpool. It's because you're all together and you're sharing a physical space, except they can't talk to each other. But it's like it's as if you used a car for half the week and then you had to pass it off to somebody else and they like left garbage in there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys think is the purpose of that walking through the office scene? It's like really long.
Yo,
it's like
It's
2-ish minutes.
really
Honestly,
important.
I completely forgot that was how the show opened because I finished watching the show a few weeks ago. And then we decided we were doing it, and I was like, nice. But I was like, I wish that I had watched it more recently. But I watched some like interviews and stuff, and they were talking about the opening shot and how he's walking through the hallways for like 4 minutes. And I completely forgot about that. That's
Yeah.
such a bold thing to do at the beginning of a show.
Well, they do a very visual explanation of the world. Like he pulls up to that big monolithic building in the middle of wherever town that is.
Here.
And then
There's no cars.
The town is called Kier.
and he goes,
No, it is.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, I
He
didn't-
goes when he's walking through the lobby, you see how wealthy the company is. You see that it has some kind of cultish leader. Like it has a
Yeah.
reverence of the leader.
Yep.
You see that he has to interface with that secretary. He says, "Okay, they're ready for you now," which is it's foreshadowing the whole like staggering their times. You see him descend to the basement, which is kind of creepy, and then
Hell.
and all of this is without words. And then the whole walkthrough, which is kind of explaining how they're segregated, isolated, and it's like this labyrinthine building that's like super Kafka-esque. It's super like monotonous
Liminal space, yeah.
It's very liminal space.
and very liminal.
Yeah, the first episode is called "Good News About Hell," which I didn't notice at first, but then like it's the funny thing about these episode titles; they can give you like little clues into what's going on.
That's a quote from Selvig, right? Because Cobell, she says I never picked up on this on the first watch, but like you, I rewatched the first episode, and when she's at Lumen, she says an anecdote. My mom was an atheist, and she said the best thing about hell is this, and the worst thing is
the
that.
best thing about hell is that it's not real. The bad news is that humans can create whatever we imagine, so we can create.
But then at the end of the episode, when she's Miss Selvig outside, she says, Mark, my mother was a Catholic, and then she gives a different
Right.
anecdote related to. She says the saints don't rush. Something about this, like getting good sleep because the saints are gonna like help you during that.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I don't know the phrase.
Yeah, that is one of the best mysteries that I don't really want to talk super about right now. But like Miss Cobell and Mrs. Selvig, like which is the real character?
Yeah.
Like
Well, what point did you guys realize that they're like
Is
both
she-
her and
is she
Melchick
severed?
Because I
Is
actually
she
didn't
severed?
know that right away.
No,
Oh,
because
really?
that's one of the questions throughout. I think the first 3 to 4 episodes, like, is she severed or not?
well, I think we see. Yeah, you're not sure whether she is severed. When we first see her as Selvig, I think.
Yep.
At his house, and then we get into the
No.
office. No,
No. You
we
see
first
her in the
as-
office.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
then he's talking to her for a while, but they haven't shown her, and then they show her face at the end of the first episode, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
Oh.
that's right. They show Selvig at the very end of the
with
episode.
the trash.
And man,
right,
Patricia Arquette is so dope. I haven't
so
seen her
good.
since
Yeah.
I watched that. What's that Tarantino movie he wrote but didn't direct? True Romance. She's in True Romance.
Oh wow.
That's a deep cut for you, hey?
That's
Brings
no,
you
it was
back.
just a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time I think I saw her was Boyhood.
Oh yeah, cool.
But that movie was shot like more than 20 years ago,
Yeah.
most of it. So
I honestly haven't really seen much with her. I only really, in my mind, when people say Patricia Arquette, I'm like, she's the medium, right? Like from the show, The Medium.
Oh yeah, okay, that's goofy.
That's the main
but
thing I
she's
know
a
her
great
from.
actor.
she's awesome.
She's
Yeah,
got a lot
she's
of range
so good in
and
this.
force. Homemaker. In this first episode, when she like barks at him, he's like, "Are you upset with me?" She's like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Like,
I think,
holy shit, she's mean.
I feel like she like. I thought that it was a bit kind of overacty in the beginning, where she's like, "I'm playing sort of an upper class person, and I'm very, very much like this." Like, you don't see a lot of real world people actually behave like that. But then, as we learn more about Lumen, and we learn that that's like a weird cult situation.
There's so much artifice at Lumen. Everyone
Yeah.
is weird.
Yeah, so it's like then it starts to make more sense, and then at near the end, as you're saying, we see this like the power that this character has and how she can like really turn it up, and then I just loved her at that point.
Well, I was so curious what they were gonna do when she's fired. I was like, oh, is she gonna like help them? Is she gonna turn against them? And I found that was a strength of the show in general. Is like I didn't know which way like any of the characters were gonna go.
Yeah,
Like, I felt like based on the circumstances, they felt like such real characters that if you gave them slightly different scenarios, everything would have been totally different.
Right. That to me is like one of the big strengths of this show. It's got sort of this like Lost vibe where it's a mystery box. There's a basic setup. We know about the severance procedure. We know about, what Lumen looks like and stuff. And we know we're kind of getting details about Mark's outer life and his inner life and blah, blah, blah. And it's slowly being revealed. But at its core, we still don't know huge things. Like, what does Lumen do?
It is a mystery box.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a maze and that there's goats in this room.
Yeah.
Like they just do wacky crap like that.
But like where Lost, I feel like and we'll see where this show goes, but I feel like Lost has had a setup where literally anything could happen, and they didn't even really need to reveal things because it's like we're on an island and there's mysterious things, like there's a black cloud that we never
polar bear.
explain. Yeah, and like they can just like show random things on the island, and we just literally have no idea, and like it ends up being those weird. There's like spiritual things going
No
on.
spoilers for
dimensions.
Lost.
I'm just saying. I'm
So you're saying it was a blank canvas and this is more
right.
constrained?
And this is a bit more constrained. I feel like I have a bit more of a hope that there will be a bit more of a coherent narrative here.
I think so.
Especially because the metaphor is so strong right off the get-go, which is kind of what I want to talk about now.
Sure.
In terms of like this serving as a metaphor for how people feel about work. Like,
Yeah,
That has
100%.
some really good moments.
it's like the dread. I feel like it's interesting. So the transition when they transition from Audi to Innie, they go in the elevator and it's this really cool camera effect that apparently they achieved by.
The dolly zoom.
It's a dolly zoom, but they have like a program. I heard the cinematographer talking about this. They have a program where someone moves the camera back and forth, and that's manual. And then they have AI that's like watching the floor and seeing how far they move, and then it adjusts the zoom based on that. It's really cool. I don't know. I'd never heard of a
Seems-
dolly zoom being done that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder
Yeah.
if it's actually more beneficial than.
Just having a
It just
person.
has to look unique though. That's the goal. Of,
But
like,
it's
the-
just like a set
a regular-
speed.
yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't change the look of it. It would just be more consistent.
Well,
Like,
do you
you could set
think
it
it-
I
do you
think that's the
as
thing,
far-
the consistency, because they had to do
Yeah,
it so many times.
That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you've seen lots of dolly zooms.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there's one in Fellowship
But-
of the Ring. Does it look different than other ones, or is like once you're doing it, you're doing it?
Well, and it's like you can do it kind of both ways. Like you can pull out, zoom in, or push in, zoom out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a different effect.
And they do one when they're going in and another one when they go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they must use both sides.
You mean
yeah.
up the building?
Yeah.
It's a different one. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think when they go in, I don't know.
It's the perfect effect. Like something like that is perfect for getting it across with the tone of this show.
Yep.
They could have done so many different things, but it's just one of those things that like I get that something is happening.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they did it in camera, and it's not cheesy. It's gonna age well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love to go back to the core concept. I love that it's an exaggerated version of like the real thing that everyone experiences about work. Like we are all slightly different people at work than we are outside of work.
Yeah.
And it's honestly it's such an interesting concept and so like easy to grasp that I'm surprised no one's done it before. Like, this is a new concept. Like, has there been anything sort of like this?
I mean, there's stuff about having certain parts of your memory like blocked or erased, but
Right.
not work.
Yeah.
It's cool to put it in the corporate context.
Right.
And it does make you realize things about yourself and things that you experience day to day. Like even things like just how, because they're getting controlled so much when they go to like the break room or like when he goes to talk to Miss Cobell, how like, and this is the place we work at is a great place to work. I'm not comparing it to this workplace,
Right.
but I've worked in other offices and stuff like that. But
We've all had
just
other
like how-
jobs, and anytime we're talking about bad jobs, that's what we're talking about.
yeah, bad jobs are other jobs. We're talking about good jobs is this job. But you know how like there's an element of just being like parented when
Yes.
your manager or owner is like, hey, can I bore you for a second? Or HR pulls you
Yes.
aside, hey, can we have a talk? And you're like, ugh.
It's like you feel like it's like your dad or mom being like, come here.
Yeah, or the
Come here, I have
you
to
go to
talk
the
to you.
principal's office, right?
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, I'm an adult.
The dread.
But you can see that, like, you watch this show and you're like, they take them to the break room and they're compelled to do these things.
Yeah, but and it's got a whole nother level to it because they can't tell anybody on the outside about the abuse that they're experiencing on the inside. Like in real life, you get abused by or treated horribly by your manager or whatever. You can go and tell somebody or you can report it.
Yeah.
And this one, it's like they are they are literally imprisoned. Man, the scene, and it's like it's super underlined by the scene in which Cobell throws the intercom at Mark. Because like at that point, you don't know whether things could escalate to like physical
Yeah, they're allowed to-
abuse in this situation, and then they show you there. It's like, no, they can literally do anything to you, and then they'll just tell you. They'll get a note on your windshield being like, "Oh, you were taking a box down and it fell on your head or something."
Yeah, there's just other little things that, because this situation is extreme, just like makes you think of the small versions of it in your real life. So in this, it's like you can't talk about anything. You can't talk about what happened to you in the break room. There's all these corporate culture things that are just enforced by middle management. Like Mark will be like, "Hey guys, not supposed to talk about what happens in the break room."
Yeah.
And it just makes you think of like shit jobs that you see on Reddit or whatever, where they're like, "Oh, we're not allowed to discuss our wages."
Well,
we're not allowed
one of the
to-
things I really love about the show is the camaraderie. They start to they start to feel when they all are breaking the rules in
Yes.
their own separate ways, and then they realize that they're all breaking the rules, and that's how they kind of band together.
Right.
Because at the beginning, you're like, you can't trust anybody. You're like,
Right.
Like even Mark, you're like, is he the villain when he's on the inside? And like certainly John Turturro's character Irving, I was like, oh, dude's gonna betray them. He's gonna like
Right.
flip and like go corporate or whatever. But it's.
It's that classic Orwellian thing, just like you see in Handmaid's Tale, where it's like, okay, I'm rebellious. Are you rebellious? We're
Yeah.
supposed to greet each other with this like particular
Yeah.
under his eye or whatever.
Praise
And if I don't say that, like, are you gonna rat on me?
Yeah,
And how do I
yeah.
find out who's on my side? And that's why those rules exist.
Yeah.
To stop the spread of
It
rebellion.
makes for great storytelling because like you feel that tension.
And I don't care if I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Like the whole like she has to read that apology 1,000 times. Is like
good.
that's literally from 1984 with like the 2 + 2
Yeah.
equals 5 thing.
And I love that as well because the first time she goes in there, because like honestly, when Petey, we first hear the apology thing when Petey is telling Mark about what's going on inside, and then he's like, "What goes on in there?" And Petey like plays in the recording of him doing the apology, and he's like, and as viewers we hear it and we're like, "That's kind of fucking weird,"
Yeah.
but we're not like horrified by it. It's just kind of like that's weird. And then when we see Helly go in and she starts to have to say the apology, honestly, in my mind, I was just kind of like, this isn't that bad. Like, okay, I have to go in and say the apology a bunch of times. And they make you keep saying it. And I'd be like, okay, I have to keep saying it. But the show does a really good job of taking this little thing that doesn't seem like it would be that troublesome and really making you believe that this is torture
Yeah.
by the
It's
end of
because
it.
you have to believe it. You've got to say it until you
Yeah,
believe it.
yeah, I
according
know.
to the biometrics. It's like you
Yeah,
have to
but
believe
even-
2 + 2 = 5.
But the thing that's so nefarious about it is that, like, okay, I'm an actor, small a. If I could like try and like act as if I believe it. And so in my mind, maybe that's why it didn't seem that crazy, because I'm like, oh, I could just like say it differently. I give a different take, you know, like I've been in the booth for 3 hours saying the same line the entire time. So it's like, okay. But like at a certain point, it's like, no, you actually have to believe it. Like just doing that mechanically over and over and over, the very thing would maybe drive you a little bit insane.
Well, even the way they progress it by giving you the numbers too, because like you see her do it once, it's not sincere. He's like, do it again. They give you like they update at 10, they give the update at like 100, and then when she's totally broken down, it's like 300 and whatever, and you're like, wow, they've done it so much. And then the next scene is her arriving with her office mates, and they're like, how many times they make you say it? Oh, 1,600 or whatever, or 1,060 or whatever. And you're like, oh, like they broke her, and then they like shattered her into tiny little like broken like pieces.
And then I think another thing about the break room that made it so interesting was when they talk about them like hearing things in the background.
Yeah, I had a question about that.
Yeah. So like it brings another level to it because you realize that these people are not normal people. They are innies. They are a subset of their own personality that has been sectioned off from the rest of their psyche. So it's like the repetition of that kind of like breaks down the membrane a little bit, and then they kind of like get a little...
that's how you interpreted that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That makes sense because, so she says, what's that murmuring voice in the other room?
Right.
And then Dillon goes, oh, you mean the crying baby sound?
Yeah.
So, and we learn later that he has kids.
Yeah, he's got like 2 or 3 kids or something.
So he's accessing other parts of the brain.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's not in real time. Obviously, his body is only one place or the other, but he's accessing like a memory or something.
It's crazy.
I actually thought it was from, I think you're right, if there is a right answer, but I actually just assumed it was they're messing with you in a personalized way.
Oh, yeah. No.
Might be a bit of both.
No, I think I'm right.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, man.
That actually, the break room scene is another one that hits home one of the worst parts of the Severance setup is that the innies, they're never off.
Yeah.
They just walk out the elevator and they walk back in, and they're at work forever. That's why it's hell. That's insane. And so when she's in the break room for that whole shift, and then she comes back in through, she looks at she has new fresh clothes on. She's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like she has to go right back in.
Those are such great transitions because we see it from Helly's perspective. Helly being the new worker, the rest of them are jaded. They've been doing this for a while. You know,
she's the audience surrogate.
Yeah. That was a great setup. It was a good. I mean, it wasn't that innovative or whatever, but I just really appreciated it, seeing it from Helly's perspective.
It wasn't originally like that in the original pitch.
Oh, really?
In the original pilot script, Mark is the one who wakes up on the table. But then they didn't want to. They wanted him to have existing relationships, like with
and
Pete
be exhausted with everything.
Yeah.
I love in the first episode when she is like, I don't want to do this, and she's trying to leave the stair. And the first episode, you only see it from the inside, so you see her just like go out, and then she's back in, out and then back in. And then the second episode, they show you the other perspective.
Yeah.
Where it's like she gets out and she's like, oh, I've got to go back in. And
Yeah.
then the show constantly does that, where it'll show you an event and then it'll show you the other side of the severance
Later.
And it gives you kind of a new perspective on it. And I really appreciated that, especially as like it almost annoyed me at first, where I was like, oh man, I'm seeing the same thing. Like I kind of get it, but because it's all about this like two sides of yourself, it works thematically, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, man. Just from the like mystery box perspective or setup or whatever, I feel like it was a great idea to have us see both sides of Mark's life right away. But then we see 3 other people who are severed, and we don't know their outie life. So it's like the show automatically, by that setup, has ways to feed us little snippets that we want to see, like little bits of Helly's and Irving's and Dillon's outer lives. So the whole setup where Helly's trying to leave, and we see it from her perspective. From her perspective, she's locked in there, and then she petitions her outie self to resign.
Awesome. That was awesome.
And then we get to see her outie self record a message back, and he's like, "Here's what's gonna happen." Like,
I found that so crushing.
Yeah.
I was like, she had one lifeline to pull on.
Yes.
And then that was extinguished.
And she believes so much that, like, because she has such a strong sense of self, she's like, my outie would never let this happen, you know? But it's like...
But that's why she's the most interesting character, is because once we know she's a Keegan, she's an Egan, we know that she's been indoctrinated throughout her lifetime.
Yeah.
Like, she's grown up in this particular environment. But then the innie-outie dichotomy is like an A/B test of like, what would this individual be with all her intelligence and tenacity if she didn't have the indoctrination? It's like a parallel universe.
Right. Yeah. It's like twin studies.
Yeah.
Where they like do the same psychological testing or surveys on twins who grew up separately.
Yeah.
And they can like sometimes isolate certain social or usually social factors because they're genetically identical that like cause certain changes in them or whatever.
What's funny because she's willing to kill herself to avoid like facing this eternal hell, but on the outside she's willing to like kill like essentially, or like to doom people to hell,
right?
Because she's never had the experience.
Yeah, I don't know why. I never really thought of like them as being in hell, even though there's the episode Good News About Hell and they talk about hell and her name is Helly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's some shots that are I found very kind of remind me of hell. Like the walking to the break room, that long skinny corridor that's like really dimly lit. Because everything in the office is fairly neutral.
Right.
They have like that specific color temperature to designate the inside and the outside. But that one hallway, it's so like scary.
And that's what Irving's drawing or painting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I also love that too, because like I wasn't sure what that meant when he saw all like the ink or sludge coming down. I didn't really get it. But then you see the episode where he's painting it and you see kind of all come together.
Yeah, I guess that's the two hemispheres of his mind kind of inserting themselves into each other.
The way they like tease that and then later pay off on it is so
Great.
good.
The show is excellent at teasing and then paying off.
Ben Stiller?
Yeah, dude.
Where'd this come from?
Great. Very
Anyway,
good
sorry,
execution.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I was just...
I love it. Yeah, I think there was a few things in the show that I wish went a little bit different that maybe they couldn't have. I think I had a hard time sometimes fighting my suspension or like allowing my suspension of disbelief to
Suspend?
like I was like, I don't think in our world, like to me this world felt a little bit 2002 in like not a bad way, but just like in a you have to kind of believe we're there, where I don't think you could get away with like not having outside people go and like study Severance and talk to people both on the inside and the outside.
Oh, like they would be completely cloistered. There would be other departments like going in and assessing them.
Yeah, and like you couldn't like you couldn't do what they do, but that's fine because it's a high concept thing. But I found, did you guys find that at all? Like that bother you? Where it's like
I guess
there's a few things that are just like
I never
unbelievable.
thought, no, I didn't have any feelings like that. Although I will say that we talked about like my original idea of what the show was going to be. I just assumed that they would be like defense contractors, and that would have alleviated that because
They're like badasses with like guns and stuff.
no, that they work at the Department of Defense and they're doing top secret stuff that you already wouldn't be able to disclose to your partner
sure.
or whatever.
I was just picturing like they're mercenaries. Like, that's what you thought. Yeah, I didn't think about like the they would have people like coming in and checking and stuff because I'm assuming probably because the people like consented to the situation. So maybe I would imagine that maybe is the in-world explanation.
But that's also the other thing is like I am not letting someone open up my brain without like seeing studies about it, and like I just like it felt like it was a big concession I had to give the show.
Right.
And it did take it's such a minor thing, but it did take me out of it.
I imagine that like they probably show potential severance people like who are considering doing the severance procedure. Like they probably show them parts of the company and make it look like, oh, this is what you'll be doing and it's fine and blah blah blah. And they allow them to talk to other severed people and they're like, oh yeah, it's great. And
that's where we enter the universe.
Yeah,
so I
that's
just
fair.
take
It's
that
not
for
super
granted.
important. You're right.
I guess another thing is that we learn that like Milchick and Cobell, they're not severed.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, there are people there who are, hey, we're not part of your department, but we are. And we're making sure it's all good.
handlers and
it seems like it's a relatively
So it's like
recent.
an out. They can say, yeah. These people they're not on their own.
Yeah. It seems like a relatively recent thing
Yeah.
that's happened in this universe. So, I expect that they're probably still kind of figuring out the regulation and
Yeah.
stuff.
It sounds like about 5 years in. Because
Yeah.
Mark has worked there for like 3.
2.
Whatever.
What level do you think the conspiracy goes out to? I started wondering that, where the town's called Kiers, like is the whole town an implementation to keep them contained for Severance to be effective, or like are there actually people that aren't part of it? And like we know there are a few people that aren't, but like we know there's the doctor or whatever that's helping, like that helps Pete reintegrate. But there's like the protesters. But at one point I wondered like, are the protesters part of it where it helps secure
Like the Matrix, where it's like the Matrix, they had a perfect version and then that didn't
exactly.
work.
You
so.
need to have that, or like there's even like what is it where if someone presents the opposing side to something you believe in, even if it's factual, you dig deeper, you go deeper. I
don't think so. I think my interpretation was like this is just a company town, so it's basically like a cultish, but more so a company like Apple that everybody loves and is like very powerful and rich, but old, very old. So they had like company towns that you would have seen in the 1800s where they house everybody.
Right.
I figure there's like a ton of people working there that they're not on the severed floor.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that there's a relatively small number of people working on the severed floor. I think is the vibe I got.
Well, the fact that they were shocked by the like 9-person department or whatever.
Yeah, because they thought that optics and design where Bird is just 2 people, and then they're like, oh, well, there's a whole thing. And then they have the Lumen housing, but it's like virtually empty, and like him and Selvig are like really the only people there.
They're the only ones we see.
Yeah. So I think that it's like there's not a ton of people who are involved in that. What do you guys think about like? So I kind of want to talk a little bit about the idea that Lumen is sort of this like dangerous bureaucracy where when we're in there we feel suffocated, right? We feel like this is like it's like capitalism gone wrong, where corporations get so much control that they are able to essentially enslave their workers and like keep them there and like basically control this part of their lives or whatever. Did you guys feel like the show made a criticism in that direction at all, or was it kind of more just like, oh, we're not really talking about economics?
It did in the sense of the kind of like dishumanism of it, because like for example, a handshake is available upon request.
Thank you. I would like a handshake.
Like everything is just like written down and codified into policy.
Yeah.
And then he does request the handshake, and she's annoyed. I love that aspect of the tone and how.
Yeah.
And that's just another thing that makes you think about your own life, and how you're different at work because of these little, exclamation marks at the end of every sentence in an email kind of thing.
Yeah.
That are just like. Eh.
And you feel like there's almost like going against that is like illegal in the work sense.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to be punished if you go against.
It's unprofessional.
You don't fill out the right form.
I feel like to me the show didn't seem like a specific criticism of capitalism. It felt kind of more broad. Even the fact that Keir's Egan sort of has like a Marx look. He's kind of like that beard. Like I almost felt like that the building is more like a monument to socialism than it is to capitalism. At least in like the traditional like Soviet sense. Like it felt like a Soviet building to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead.
No, that's
I was just gonna say that would be kind of my pushback against the idea that like, oh, this is look at how these corporations have money. What we need is socialism or communism so that we can like stop these corporations from having that control. But then I was like, well, what is communism but just like that type of bureaucracy extended to the entire nation?
Yeah.
It's like what we're asking for is Lumen on a national scale.
Yeah, we know so little about the company that it really does have more communist feel because we don't know anything. We do know that they have quarterly targets that they're trying to meet. That's very capitalistic.
Right.
But beyond that, it seems much more of an integrated lifestyle. Cobell is a zealot through and through, 24 hours a day.
You would receive certain benefits from the company for your hard work to better the cause, but only the benefits that the board decides that you can have. You can have a waffle party,
finger trap.
I feel like if it was trying to criticize capitalism more, they would have shown us the extreme edge of the wealth or like the power. They only show us the suffering, really.
Right. We do see like the event at the end with the Lumen
but even
elites
that's
or whatever.
Like barely.
Yeah, it's kind of an afterthought. I wonder if they'll explore that more in season.
The Lumen elites are called the Illuminati.
I wonder if that's like
maybe
the idea. That's kind of clever.
Yeah, where does Lumen come from?
Illuminate.
That's great. James, maybe that's it.
You figured out the
Maybe
whole
you should
show.
tweet Ben Stiller.
I love when you realize why the lady that gave her the coffee at the birthing retreat or whatever doesn't remember her, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's like this. Like you can do severance everywhere in your life, and like that's what I think they're gonna lead out. Where like where else in your life would you want to have control over people by severing?
And I just realized that lady is a form of foreshadowing, because you're like, oh, people are getting. Like the people who are close to this issue, the people who are trying to spread severance to other domains, they're all doing it as like pioneers. Like this is is that guy a senator or something? Some politician's wife. Like she's gonna beta program this.
Yeah.
Herself.
But so
is Helly is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We learn later that she's a cure, and the only way to like convince people this is a good thing is just do it yourself. You got to dog food this.
Well, I do think that Helly knows that it's hell, and she's like, I have to do this to make sure that we can get away with this. Or do you think that she does believe the indoctrination?
Well, it could have been one and then the other. She finds out it's hell because
she tries to kill herself.
Innie's going to try to kill herself.
That's fair.
I wonder if she was told that she tried to kill herself though. I wonder if
we know that she was.
She sends a video, doesn't she?
Not only that, but then her father talks to her in the bathroom saying, I can't remember what the innie did to you.
Right.
Or tried to
do. The bruising or whatever.
That horrible innie.
Yeah.
It's like
so funny.
You're like identifying the innie as some external force.
Well, that's what you would have to do so that you don't have like cognitive dissonance of saying this is an okay thing, right? You have to justify it.
I can't wait for them to blow up Severance into like bigger things, because the idea when she's talking to the lady that had the kids. She's like, "Oh, I had 3 kids," and she's like, "Oh, I couldn't have done it without Severance." And you're like, "Oh, that's fucked up." Like you can segment these parts that are hard for yourself, but then you're also, I think, taking away some of the texture of life.
Oh, 100%. Especially when you think about it in terms of kids, because I feel like my wife might say, "Hell yeah, I would take that. I would so take that if I could just make because like there's some hard days when you're at home with a couple of kids."
Right.
But then you would also lose the whole point of having kids, like the interactions you have with, they're so damn cute.
Yeah.
All of those interactions would be gone too.
Right. I mean, the pregnancy thing is a very interesting idea because it's like you could make an argument that the actual action of going through the birthing of a child is something that you want to experience, even if it is extremely painful. I mean, I'm a man. Whatever. I watched my wife give birth though, so I kind of like understand that it's traumatic.
You're a man who doesn't give birth.
Lauren didn't. No. Lauren was like had like a really hard time after giving birth.
The
to our
epidural
son.
is Severance.
Essentially.
C-section literally is Severance.
Well, no, don't. Hold on, we're
just
not
mean
saying
it's
that.
a knife is what I'm saying.
But I'm saying that like you could make an argument that like you want to be there for that experience, even if it is really hard. But with work, it's like, do you want to make that same argument of like, no, you want to experience the drudging 8 hours of toil?
I think there's some people who would say that, like they get fulfillment from their career, they like the way that they develop, and they find meaning in what they do, and if you rob them of that,
I think depending on the job is all I'm saying. Like obviously there are some jobs that are really great, like our job. Thank you, Linus.
We're at work right now, but that's the thing is in macro data refinement, all they do is sit in front of a little terminal and go, meh, meh. They do something stupid and tedious, right? So
do you think that part of the Severance is programming their brain to understand the numbers better, or is that like a natural human thing? Because they're like, well, what do we do? Oh, well, you stare at the numbers until you find the ones that scare you or make you feel unsettled.
See, this is a really interesting thing that I found in the show was this idea of the numbers eliciting certain emotions. Oh, these numbers make you feel anger. These numbers make you feel scared, happy. And I was like, okay, so we have this idea, and then we have Keir's whole like philosophy of there being, I think there's 4 tempers and then 9 virtues, and like your mix of tempers makes up your personality, and he tamed the tempers so that he could cultivate the virtues, and I was just kind of like, maybe there's gonna be some sort of like, maybe not, but I always love.
This is your headcanon?
This is my well, I'm saying maybe the season 2 will kind of get into an idea that like Keir was sort of onto something, maybe that because we've seen that. I think this is an alternate universe because like the town of Keir doesn't exist. Obviously, they apparently one of the pieces of mail said state PE, and apparently there's no U.S. state with PE as the
not Pennsylvania
abbreviation. Let me just see here.
Pennsylvania
U.S. state.
I mean, the question you're kind of saying like every story that is fiction is an alternate universe.
Yeah, I don't think there's a state. There's no state. There's no U.S. state with PE. Pennsylvania is PA.
Oh yeah.
So, so I'm saying that like it might be an alternate universe. So, maybe there's like an opening for them to be like the reason why they can see emotions, they can associate emotions with these numbers is because Keir was sort of onto something.
That's cool. Cool idea. David's question is it related to the operation of Severance? It seems like no, but there's no explanation of like, could anyone just learn that if you look at these numbers long enough? That seems not normal. So,
or maybe you need
it could be related.
You need
to
enough
chip.
room in your brain or something. Like you need an emptiness that those numbers can fill. I don't know.
Yeah,
They might be able to. Maybe they haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
And that's something they'll think about.
I can totally see it being related to the chip in some way.
Yeah.
I'm
excited because I think the show does have a good number of stuff to still explore.
Apparently, I read an AMA with the creator of the show and writer, and he said that we're going to see some milk check outside of Severance
I was wondering that.
scenes.
Because he
Milchek?
might.
Oh, right. We haven't seen him outside of work.
No.
Is he the most evil or is...
It's interesting. They all kind of have a different role, right? Like, you've got... Helly's like the rebellious one. Then you've got Irving, who's the fully like indoctrinated one, until it clashes with something he believes deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Dillon is like, he hates it, but he has figured out how to thrive in it.
Yeah.
I feel
And
like
he's motivated by like the incentives.
I feel like that's what makes Dillon so interesting is that he doesn't hate it so much as he's just kind of like, he like gamifies it. He's just like, if I have to be here, then I'm going to have, I'm going to be the baddest number cruncher there is.
Exactly. Yeah. When I say hate it, I guess he's tolerating it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
He's like, he's making the best of it.
He's resigned to this is his life.
Isn't Waffle Party one of those like internet things you shouldn't look up?
That's Lemon Party.
Lemon
And then
Party.
Blue Waffle.
Blue
Those
Waffle.
are two different things.
I see.
You're mixing.
I
man,
got it. I got this on lock.
You got to reintegrate those concepts.
Because I was like, that's a weird thing, but no, that makes more sense.
That party, I think, no, the dance party where Milchick is
It's
dancing
so
around.
good.
That was almost a deleted scene. The creator cut it.
Oh, really?
And then I think they shot it anyway. And then as soon as they saw that actor dancing, they were like, "Oh, this is gold." And he said in the AMA, he's like, "I was so stupid."
That's not the Waffle Party. That's
the Waffle Party is when they go to the Kier house
Yeah,
thing.
that I didn't.
And
I
Dillon-
didn't really like that. I didn't
That's
get
the
it.
fruit.
I didn't really understand what the purpose of it was.
Well,
And it
it-
felt artificially
like contrived to get him.
Yeah, contrived to get him there, but also like, why is it lit like that? Like, except to make him uncomfortable.
Oh, right, there's
and
that weird
creepy.
dance that happens. I forgot
Yeah,
about
they have
that.
the papier-mâché heads, and like, it's just like, it's interesting, and it's certainly unique, but yeah, it felt very contrived. The whole Waffle Party thing to me.
Like there's the dances.
Yeah,
So
and
what
it's
I didn't
just-
understand is that those dancers represent the four tempers,
Okay.
and one of them's like a goat, and there's like a lot of goat imagery going on. 'Cause, like you can see goats in like the paintings, and then there's the goat department, obviously, that we still have no idea what's going on there.
I'm
Like the
excited
guy is
about
just like
that.
trying to feed the goats.
They're not ready.
Yeah, not ready. That felt so like absurd. It was just like
It
so,
felt like The Shining to me.
yeah,
a little bit.
No, it was great, but like I love this. I feel like the show balances absurd kind of surreal horror with comedy.
Oh, the
so
levity
well.
is amazing. In the first episode, one of the first kind of examples of that is when he's reading back to Helly her answers for these crazy questions she's asked, like the survey, right? And the questions are intense. One of them is like, "What color are your mother's eyes?"
Oh yeah.
And that is so visceral.
Yeah.
And it's so scary. Like they picked such a great question because the fact that she doesn't know that and the kind of like recognition on her face when she realizes she doesn't know that, it was so relatable to any human on this planet.
That first scene, so great.
But then he reads back her answers and he goes, "Okay, we got unknown, Delaware, unknown." Like, just
Yeah.
slip a little joke in there.
Right, because what was the question? Can you remember the name of any,
Name any U.S.
name a
state.
U.S. state?
Yeah.
You only came up with Delaware.
It's got to be Delaware. Is that a Wayne's World reference? I don't know. Hi.
It's so
I'm
it's
in Delaware.
The perfect
it's
store.
so good because it's like horrifying as you realize, like, because I'm thinking like, what would that be like, right? To still have a sense of self and still have an identity of. Oh, wait, she didn't know her name, right? She didn't even know her name.
No.
They're like, what's your name? And
Who
she's
are
like,
you?
Well,
She
because
doesn't
they have to
answer.
lie to her too, because her name is Helly Egan.
Egan, right? And they tell her it's Helly R.
R.
Yeah, she doesn't even know her name, but she knows how to speak. She retains her like personality, but that was an interesting psychological idea that like you can separate someone's personality out from their memories.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually possible.
No, and this is where the show gets a little whack. It's a little spurious there because it's interesting and awesome that they are able to bring us up to speed in this world with this 5-question survey.
Mm-hmm.
We completely understand, like, this is what she has access to and what she doesn't have access
That's
to.
pretty
Yeah.
brilliant.
But if you think about it for too long, it starts to make no sense. Like,
Right.
how is it that you can, because our memories are just not separated this way.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that they know how to, like, drive a car, but they
Yeah.
don't know, they don't remember, like, choosing to put those clothes on in the morning?
Yeah, when
or, like,
Irving was getting in the car, I'm just like, because it seems interesting that they are able to kind of access these instinctive things. Like they know how to walk,
And
they know
type.
how to talk, they know how to like do things. And when he gets in the car, you know that this Irving has never driven a car before, but he just instinctively knows to like reach for the lever.
He looks a
lever and do
little
stuff.
weird
Yeah,
about it,
but
but
then he kind of is just like,
it's like riding a
"Oh,
bike.
I think I'm supposed to do this. Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that there's like people that get the procedure but like die partway through, or that you know you get the chip and then like you don't get the ability to your brain, like the part of your brain that remembers to breathe, like doesn't reconnect or
Yeah.
something? Like, do you think there's a pile of dead
I mean,
bodies
like we're gonna
somewhere?
go through like a Alien 4 Resurrection scene where they go through and like kill me.
Yeah,
kill me."
exactly.
There's all
Yeah.
the abomination.
I mean, I imagine
Lumen-
that they went through that whole process before we get to the chip that they're using now. I think that it's like we know that they're still figuring out stuff about
For
it.
sure.
Like Harmony, Miss Cobell puts Mark in the therapy session with his wife, with Miss Casey, and it almost seems like she wants them to recognize each other.
Yeah.
And then when they don't, she's kind of disappointed, but at the same time,
what is
they're
her
like,
whole deal? We should talk about that for a
Yes.
second because she's obsessed
Yes.
with Mark. Like, why does she live beside Mark? Why does she orchestrate?
and she wasn't supposed to.
She wasn't supposed to live there.
Yeah, she got admonished for when the board found out that she was living next to Mark. They didn't
No,
know
I thought it
she
was more
living-
about that she was doing the lactation consultation with his
It
sister.
was a couple things. It says
That's
it in
really
the-
fucked up, dude. That make
So I guess we kind of understand later on that we understand when Miss Casey is alive, and Miss Casey is Gemma. That implies we're gonna find something messed up stuff in season 2 that, she was hospitalized from this car accident. They told everyone she was dead, but they used her as a guinea pig or something. So Cobell is implicated in that process that made her personally invested in the life of Mark Scout and Miss Casey.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the episode summary here, it's episode 8. Cobell is suspended by the board for withholding knowledge of Helly's suicide attempt and her extracurricular activities as Mark's neighbor, Mrs. Selvig.
okay.
So, I mean, maybe they did know that she was like living next to him, but maybe they didn't know that she was like being involved in his life and stuff.
Speaking of his life, we got to talk about his sister, Devin.
Yeah,
and the
so
report.
like
Such a
I couldn't
cool-
find a place to put Devin. I mean, Devin is in there in the end of this synopsis, but I wanted to put in Rickon because
Yeah.
I fucking love Rickon in the show.
Dude, I love the relationship, the sibling relationship. They have these little memes that they put into the show, like "Good night, my lady."
Yeah.
my lord, and they just like say stuff weird. And I think a lot of that was ad libbed
Yes.
on set, and it just works. It was so convincing. I totally believe
Yeah.
their relationship.
I
as
love like
siblings.
when actors can like put in little things like that because it's hard to write that stuff. Like it's hard to write like, and then I want you to say it like, "Oh my lady," like they just kind of have to come up with it.
When
But-
he's in overtime and he sees her, I was like, just fucking talk to her, man. Just fucking talk.
Yeah,
And it's-
but
it's
he doesn't
nice-
know that's his sister.
He doesn't know it's his sister. I love that whole sequence of like him trying to figure out who to trust. Oh,
What did he
man.
say?
Audience superior.
Yeah.
Wait, the part when he like tries to guess whether she's his wife.
Oh, how's our baby?
Yeah, how's our baby?
Do you mean the royal?
And she's like, "Our baby." Ha,
yeah,
ha,
like
ha.
that takes a village.
And he's like, "Okay, not my wife."
Yeah.
All right, cool.
That was great.
Man, Michael Chernus plays Rickon. And
so good.
what else was he in? He was in. I saw him in another show, and he was like hilarious. I just like
Just
love
click
that actor.
on his name.
Oh,
The
okay.
internet will tell you.
Well, I can't multitask, so I can't like look it up and talk at the same time.
Well, I like one of the things that I didn't expect the show to do is to show how susceptible we are to
Oh, Orange is the New Black. He's in Orange is the New Black.
Oh,
and he's
who is he?
he's so funny in that.
the guard.
He's the main character's brother, I think.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Piper's brother.
Yes.
Okay.
He's one of those people who's like, looks hilarious. He has to be trying to be serious, but you can't take him seriously because he's
Yeah.
hilarious. Like,
His book is hilarious. Well, I like that when you have your life in the context of all the things that you've seen, it's stupid, it's silly, and it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But to these people that have no context of religious or like spiritual ideas or philosophical ideas, it's brilliant. And all 4 of them have these like incredible breakthroughs because of the book.
Yes.
And how reverent he is of him at the end. And like, he's like, dude, you're fucking with me. And he's like, no, your book changed my life.
yeah. Rickon's so interesting because he's like cringe, but he's free. He's like 100% authentic.
Yes.
He believes in every single thing. We have to hang the kelp. Like,
But it's funny. It's like
and that makes like he's like self-actualized in that way.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's self-actualized, but it's funny because he appears to be sort of at like an early developmental level of like realizing all these deep truths. It's like, and that's why his book is so perfect for the employees, because I think that's someone, like a deep philosophical thinker who like kind of like goes through this phase of like realizing, hey, wait a second, all these structures that we've made in society, we don't have to abide by them, and they're just like a lot of them are just meant to keep us down.
And you're
so
like,
it's
I remember my first joint.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you like go through this deconstruction phase, and then like for a lot of like philosophers, they would read Rickon's book and they're just like, this is grade 1 shit.
Yeah.
Because it's like we've gone on to the next level of stuff.
What is you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you don't need your job. Your job needs you. And it's like, damn, dude, so deep. But like that's why it's so perfect for the people in the Severance floor, because all they know is all they've been fed by their job. So like they read the book and it's like this holy text for them.
Why
It's
do you
so
think it
good.
was planted? Why was it on that chair in the boardroom?
I think
Because
Irvin
Milchick
found
was
it.
reading it.
He was reading it to see if there was coded messages
Oh,
or
right.
something. And then I
Yeah.
think they left
He got
it?
like he had an emergency. He had to respond to an emergency or something like that.
Maybe. That's
Rickon came and dropped it off at Mark's house.
Cobell stole it.
Cobell stole it. Then Milchick took it and he was reading it, and then he left on the chair, and then
that's definitely one of the aspects of the show that I took some points off is how incompetent the company is at surveilling them. Like sometimes they're
Yeah.
like really closely watching them, and sometimes they're given so much freedom
Yeah, so it's
to
like,
do stuff.
are there cameras in there?
Yeah.
Because like,
they
they're just
show
doing whatever they want.
They show that there are cameras.
Later on.
Yeah. but we don't see like the big giant bank. I think we see Miss Cobell like cycling through it on her little CRT monitor.
And I like the philosophical or like the idea that, they don't actually need people surveilling them because they think they're being watched.
Yeah.
But then it's like,
That's panopticon.
but it's like also I don't know how big this operation is, but it's not that hard to have like one person for every 50 people and just, keep an eye on them if they're walking through the hallways or if they're like doing illicit stuff. You just like keep a little bit of an eye.
Yeah, but it's a corporation, so they're trying to keep costs down. They just have one security guy. They got the little too cocky. The hubris.
But this
hubris,
is
you're right.
this is like another part of the mystery of it, I feel like to me, because they they allude to historical events that have happened in the Severance wing.
Yeah.
Like, these two departments went to war.
Yeah.
They have this animosity towards the optics and design department because apparently in the past there was a war
and
between them.
And that department perpetuates it by making artworks that depict it.
Yeah.
So do you think that really happened, or do you think it's programming?
It's propaganda to keep them apart.
So we discover that they're doing this on purpose. They like have these paintings depicting it so that they believe that they should stay apart, but like don't go and visit the other departments because they're bad people. And it's such a great idea. The fact that like the idea that the corporation is kind of like seeding different information to different people to kind of like get the outcome that they want. I love it.
Love it too.
I love it. Wait. Okay. So Selvig, we kind of were talking about her, but then we stopped. So did you guys understand what I didn't understand this until I saw some people talking about it? The fact that her like shrine to Kier in her house actually may be a shrine like to her mother. So there's some like
No, I didn't see that at all.
there's some pictures
I thought it
of
had to do with her husband.
Maybe
He talks about her
I
husband.
thought that there was a
bit.
thing about her mother because it said like I think that there was like a birth certificate or some sort of like medical record that had a woman's name, Cobell, and there was a photograph of like a really old timey like 1930s photograph of a girl at some like prep school or something.
Okay.
It was like a Kier school, and then there was like part of the shrine was like a breathing tube type situation from like a medical thing. So and we know that Lumen made biotech stuff. They were like a medical company.
Yeah, they started off that
So
way.
one of the prevailing theories is that Mrs. Selvig or Mrs. Cobell is involved with Lumen not because she's actually like fanatically devoted to Kier, but because she's on a mission to take them down from the inside, and because they like wronged her mother or something, or they killed her mother. So then
Interesting.
that's why and so like when she gets fired, she's not actually upset and like tearing down everything because she was like, no, I love Kier so much, and like this is my
Because her
cult.
mission is foiled.
Yeah,
Then why would she try to stop Helly? Because Helly's gonna
because
bring
I
us
think
down
that
a different way.
because I think that it would prevent her from rising higher in the
her
company,
type of revenge.
and her stopping this event would maybe get her back into the good graces of the company and come back.
Well, that definitely that.
Yeah.
I would need to see more proof to like really subscribe to that
I
belief.
think it's a coherent theory, and I do think Cobell probably will turn in the end and be instrumental in bringing it all down. But right now, she seems more like a zealot. I think
I don't know. I feel like it's like 50-50 for me. I honestly don't know.
It's a good headcanon.
Well, it might be real canon. Who knows?
Well, we don't know, and that's why it's headcanon.
You know what,
But I'm 50-50. I'm on I don't know whether I believe it or not. I'm agnostic on it.
Good
you
for
know,
you.
Do you know what made me want to shoot myself out of a cannon?
No.
That was nice.
Mark and Helly kiss.
I thought that was
Not
unnecessary.
necessary. So unnecessary.
Kind of weird.
It was just like, we don't need that dimension in the show. Like it's almost less interesting because of it.
I didn't like. I feel like we didn't need it, but at the same time, it didn't really bother me because it adds extra tension knowing that Mark's wife is still alive, and Mark's Innie has no idea about this at that point. And even if he did, he doesn't really have an emotional attachment to her because he's never met her. And B, the idea that these two beings who have only been alive for however long, that's all they know, and they're looking for any sort of real human connection.
And she's defeated elsewise.
Yeah.
So like she's deciding, okay, if I'm gonna, it's like another act of rebellion. She
Right.
doesn't know if her outie is married and stuff, and she's like doing this infidelity that her outie can't control. It's awesome.
They're kind of being like, "Fuck you, we're doing it."
I didn't really feel like that to me, but maybe if on a rewatch, I'll change my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you. We didn't need it, but
I do love the conversation Miss Casey and Mark has when he's apologizing to her because they meet in the dark hallway and she's like, "Oh, I'm being fired or whatever," and he's like apologizing to her, and she's like the best time I've only been alive for 108 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And the best 8 hours I had was watching over Helly's shoulder because
Yeah.
I've been alone the whole time. And I was like,
She was such like a sad character.
Yeah,
It's just
really
like-
good cast.
Yeah.
He has that
The
kind
only
of
other thing
melancholy on
the
her
only thing
face.
I recognize that actress from Deacon Lockman. I don't know how to say her name. Dichen. Was Altered Carbon.
Oh, she's there?
She's the main guy's sister.
Oh, that's her?
Yeah.
Ooh, she was not good in that. Oh, she's a Vancouver actor,
She's
isn't she?
fine. She's all right.
I hated her in that.
Oh, really?
It like ruined the
I mean, the whole show was kind of.
yeah, I don't like
But
that
I'm pretty
show
sure
at
she's
all.
a local
Bad.
actor.
Yeah, I think she is.
Cool. Good for her.
Because they filmed a lot of that here.
We should get her on the show. After I said that.
Oh
Just
my
like,
God.
yeah, just erase that part of that. Yeah, no, she was great. I felt the pain in her eyes. Because she's there, that's interesting because she's there as the therapist. She's supposed to help their mental health, but like she is also one of the most like troubled, like sad characters in the show in the company.
I really like how it's not, maybe it's in the break room where they give the positive feedback of like, oh, your Audi is kind.
Oh,
Your
yeah,
Audi is
therapy.
that.
That's
the
Miss Casey
therapy.
doing that.
I like those scenes. I was wondering if the information they got is real because they don't actually show us things that match up on the outside. They just tell us, and I wonder if they're actually giving them real information or if it's like they just have these scripts they go off of and be
I
like,
think a lot of it is
like
not
Mark
real.
loves to camp, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, we didn't see any information about him liking to camp or do anything like that.
He has a sleeping bag.
Okay, you know what?
We
Fair
know
enough.
that.
I think
Fair
the closest thing to like a real truthful thing that I remember from that is Miss Casey saying to Irving, "Your Audi loves the sound of radar, and radar is the name of his dog."
Oh, and does she
Yeah.
say something about liking to paint, or does she say that to Mark? Like
Maybe-
something music?
Maybe that is to Irving.
We got to talk
Maybe.
about the Irving Burt thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken and John Turturro.
Love it.
What a
That's-
great matchup.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see Walken just he's always like macho and machismo.
Right,
and
right.
like a gangster and stuff. So this is like totally outside of what I've seen from him before,
Right.
which is cool.
Have him be this like really soft-spoken, like gentle.
Oh, it makes me think
Yeah.
of Hairspray.
Well, it's weird because in like the 80s and early 90s, he was like a very forceful and popular and very like a great actor.
Yeah.
And then he became like a caricature of himself.
yeah.
And then so on this one, they didn't write it for him.
He's a
and they
living
didn't
meme.
edit the role or his dialogue after he was cast. He just took what was already written for that character and then made it what it is.
I like that their romance felt very sweet to me.
Mm.
And when he like almost kisses John Turturro and he's like, I'm not ready. And it's like, it's just very innocent and
Yeah.
childlike in a way that worked for me in that universe.
I did not think that that it would work for me at all, but I was just like, this is adorable.
So
You know what I was trying to parse myself watching that was I can't watch this I can't watch it outside of the lens of the taboo in our society of homosexuality, where that taboo exists. I don't know if that exists in their universe or if the kind of trepidation and the gentleness with which they approach the relationship is just because it's a new relationship and there's all these other rules about, hero rules about fraternization and stuff.
Yeah.
And is that the only thing at play? Or is it also there's another layer where also we're gay and that's not allowed?
Maybe.
I
I
don't
got
know if
the-
that's not allowed or not.
Yeah.
Because I live in a world where it isn't.
Right.
Or hasn't been.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
It is.
Yeah. I got the feeling that it wasn't about the gay thing and that they could be straight or whatever. Like, and it would be like basically the same situation where it's more about the workplace relationships are forbidden than it is about like gay
Yeah.
workplace relationships.
Yeah, I think
are
so.
forbidden.
I think that the fact that it was homosexual is kind of incidental,
Yeah.
but still at play. When
I that retirement scene that we've kind of briefly talked about that's the moment I think Irvin really turns when he yells at Melchick. I was so happy because he loses it. You never see him lose
Right.
it. He's always like a company man, kind of losing his mind because of the black sludge.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you're just gonna stand there and watch him die.
Yeah.
And it's like it's
It's such a moment. It's such a moment of release because the entire show he's so reserved and well
Yeah.
put together, and he's like, "No, we shouldn't speak ill of the founder," and blah blah blah. He's
Does he
also-
have an accent?
No, he's doing like a transatlantic like.
Okay.
John Turturro is just doing this sort of like I'm a upper class person and I enunciate everything I say.
Because I was wondering, I'm like, oh, maybe that's like a sign of severance or something. Like it's like he's splitting this accent,
Oh.
and it's like it comes in and out because he's broken.
we haven't
I
heard him
wonder,
speak.
yeah, we
as
haven't
an
heard
outie.
him speak in the outside world, so I wonder if he does talk like
Oh, that'd
that.
be so interesting.
I don't
feel
know
like
what
he
his
doesn't.
plan is. He's about to knock on Bert's door, interrupting Bert and Bert's husband.
Well, I think the innie just wanted to.
What is he gonna
Talk to
say?
Well, I don't think he's planned that far, honestly. I think he knows that he has limited time, and he just wants to have this face-to-face moment with him if he can, and that's
It was
all that
actually
he's looking.
when they're intercutting between those 3 threads, and it's all building up. That was the one that I was like least invested in because I was just like, "What are you doing?
Yeah, you're not changing the world.
You're just gonna walk in there and be like, hey, I know you from work, and I love you, and you love me. Sorry, you're married." And they're gonna be like, yeah, well, we're married, so see ya.
I mean, I think he's not acting logically. I think he's acting out of emotion because he knows that he has
Yeah,
limited
but that's
time.
sure, but that doesn't make it more compelling to me.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean, like, I grant what you're saying, but that doesn't make me interested in it. Whereas in the other plot lines, there's a lot at stake, and there's a lot of suspense.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'll grant you that the Irving plot line there in the finale is not as interesting as the other ones, but I don't think they spend too much time.
It could be
on
more interesting to some people.
Maybe. Let's talk about the ending. I think we got there. We're there now.
Sure.
I love the final episode, and I think
You just hate the blue balls.
I hate the cliffhanger, and I feel like the show has been excellent episode by episode of giving you a beginning, middle, and end, and like kind of tackling a different angle of the story and the world, and it does such a good job of each episode being really satisfying and yet leaving you wanting more.
Yeah.
And I felt like the ending of the final episode wasn't satisfying.
It was like a betrayal.
Oh, really?
I felt like it was a betrayal, where it was like, oh, fine, fuck, you've designed this episode for come back next season, instead of like, oh, we finished the payoff, but here's a little bit more that wants you to do more.
They had a lot of restraint throughout the season. They didn't like end on brutal cliffhangers.
No.
You know, example being like he's looking at the picture and he gets to see his wife,
Yeah.
and not showing us who it is. They show us who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know. I didn't feel that way, David. I feel like it delivers some payoffs to us that I was expecting the entire time and leaves me wanting more. Like, I mean, the fact that he sees a picture of his wife and we're like, you know, I feel like if it didn't have him revealing that information to Devin before it cut, then I would be like, what do you mean?
Here's the thing about that story, and we'll see if I hate this even more, is when it comes back, they do an episode or two of like, what do you mean? Who's back? And then they're not super clear on she's alive.
Oh,
then like I could
so
see
maybe
them
you're, like,
dragging
scared about
it out.
that?
I think I'm scared of them like dragging out what the payoff should be.
We've been hurt before.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, what about Helly? Are we gonna go and like immediately here's us taken down, or is it gonna be like we get it like 7 episodes of like, oh, she was sick, she's just joking, she's this, and like they keep stringing us along.
Are we gonna pick up in that same moment? Are we gonna pick up like 2 weeks later?
Yeah. Or are they gonna resolve it in such a cheesy way that makes it another whole season?
I just feel like this show, I felt really taken care of. You know, I feel like I placed myself into the bosom of Ben Stiller and Dan Erickson and Efi, whatever her name is. I forget how to say the other director of the episodes. I was placed myself in their bosom, and they nurtured me with their breast milk of story.
Goat's milk, actually.
Yeah.
I felt really taken care of, so I feel like I have the confidence that, like, I mean, maybe you're right, but I don't have that same fear because I feel like I was well taken care of the show, and that they delivered sequential kind of reveals in a pace that made me happy.
Totally.
And I think that you are right to fear the Helly storyline, because I think that what did she reveal? She revealed that the severed employees aren't happy, and who is she telling it to?
People that are pro Severance.
The people that are pro Lumen, with the sign out front says "Welcome, friends of Lumen."
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's like a ton of outside people are going to see that. So I think that it is going to be like she thinks that she accomplished something, but she didn't really accomplish much. Although maybe there will be a couple people in there that are like, "Oh, I'm going to help your cause now." But I do think I think that him revealing to Devin she's alive and he's holding the picture of Gemma. It's like they'd have to be pretty dumb to not put the pieces together that he's talking about Gemma.
Well,
He's holding the picture.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
And also just like the way that built up, just technically, like
love that.
the directing and the acting, the music kind of like swelling up to this moment where he's just like, she's alive, and then
the
it cuts. I'm just like, ah!
But it gives you the Severance transition, right? And then it cuts? Because it's like...
Well, he's like saying she's alive, and then it's like happening as he's saying it.
I did really appreciate that.
She's alive! Yeah. So good.
I think that
I just got chills.
I think that the show, it does an amazing job. I think I just would have preferred it if it was a closed loop and it paid off, because that's why I don't like gravitate towards TV shows, is that they don't exist to tell the story. They exist to keep you watching.
And this is tying back to your slogan, finally.
Yeah.
Speaking of closing the loop, here
Close
it
the
is.
loop, hell yeah. Is that this open ending just feels like it's like, oh, like it exists not to tell the story. Like that's not the best way they could have told the story. And seeing them prioritize the practicality of the medium, or like the commercial side of the medium over their story, removed a lot of my enjoyment of it, and it takes away my confidence.
So there's like a prioritization of like, okay, we've made this story engine, let's make 6 seasons versus we could tell this story
But
in
do
one
you feel
season.
like that's the vibe you get from the show, that it's like primarily concerned with like getting you back in the seat every week, or did you
It's
feel
not
like
primarily concerned with it, but
this was a decision that was it moved the needle too far towards that in a way that made me nervous. And I think it's just no show. It's very hard to recapture your magic season after season after season, and like shows can do it, but I think that a lot of the appeal of the show is the mysteries being revealed, and I think like there is other mysteries to be revealed, but I'm nervous that the best ones have been revealed.
Yeah, and now I'm not done. I can't just be like, that was a great season. Don't think I need to see season 2 for whatever stories to come up with. Instead, you're like, well, now even to get closure on this season, I need to watch this at least part of the second season. That sucks.
that's a TV show. I don't know. I just feel
like when I finished the first season of Handmaid's Tale, I was like, that was great. I don't really want to watch the second season, but
really,
I have enough answers.
But I feel like that's a bad thing. Like I feel like
I mean, if they didn't win me over, they didn't win me over. But like, they shouldn't coerce me with cliffhangers.
I feel like a show, if they don't make me want to come back, then I stop watching the show and then I don't finish the story, and that's bad.
No, but I think that there's a way to do it. And
yeah, but I think
this isn't the best example, but the most recent show I watched and I think does a good job is Peacemaker, where it is very much a closed loop, and the story from beginning to end in season 1 is complete, but there is loose threads or new ideas that are like, oh, we can go there, we can do this. And it felt like we were so close to the end of this thread that it's just cheap to like cut that final segment.
They're calling it 2 seasons, but it's not. Like season 1 is going to be part of the end of season 1 is going to be in season 2,
but
whereas
like,
they could have just wrapped it.
I feel like we just have different preferences when it comes to like how TV stories should be told. Because to me, I really like when season 1 and season 2 are kind of like a cohesive story, and like if you find a way to naturally segue into a new story arc. Like I feel like I've watched a bunch of shows where season 1 is like a closed loop, and it's like, okay, I feel like that was a complete narrative, and at the end of the season finale, we're like, all right, I feel like I'm walking out of a movie, you know? But what that can mean for season 2 sometimes is that they're like, well, we kind of told the story as what story there is to tell, so now we have to like come up with some weird new contrived plot to like bring back these characters because people want to see more of the characters, but we finished the story.
I think it's like a sliding scale.
Yeah, I think and what I really mean about this show is that it drives this excellent balance between delivery of story, delivery of plot details, and like leaving enough mystery that I want to continue, because like it was like I wanted to binge this show so bad and I just couldn't. And so like maybe that's playing a part of it. I feel like you said earlier that all the main mysteries have been delivered already. And I don't think that's true.
I think all the ones. I think there's 2 parts of what I'm saying. I think the most interesting payoffs to the high concept of the show have been explored. I think like the most like interesting ideas of what severance means, what that will do to a person philosophically, morally, all these things, that they're the payoffs that they've been thinking about for years. Like when they came up with this idea, their best ideas were part of season 1, but there is like the looser. There's still the loose ends that we don't know. Like, okay, Miss Casey, why is she here? Like, all these things. So there's still stuff that they've set up. I don't think that there's nowhere to go, but I'm concerned that by not closing this part, they're gonna do the like sequel thing where it's like we're kind of hitting the same note again, and maybe it's as good as the first season, but we've already pulled the ripcord on the payoff for what the setup is, that it doesn't hit as hard the second time.
Well, I think they're gonna do a lot more explanations of Severance out in the world.
That's fair.
So that could be interesting.
I just feel like there's Selvig's backstory to dig into. What the heck is she doing? There's Miss Casey, what happened with her and Mark. Like, obviously they have some sort of history there. There's like Lumen and what they do. Why are there goats in there? Why are they doing there, there's the numbers and emotions thing. It's like there's just like so many. And
Yeah, what are they actually doing?
yeah, and is there some sort of weird panpsychic thing going on with all this stuff? I just feel like there's so much for them to explore, and I think you're right. There is a danger that they might hit kind of like the same note in season 2, but I just feel. I mean, we'll just have to disagree about it. I feel confident that they're not going to fuck us over.
Speaking of arbitrary borders,
nitpicks.
David, do you have a nitpick?
I have a nitpick.
I have 0 actually.
I have a couple.
I have hit picks though.
The auto tune they use on Patricia Arquette's voice when she sings like the Kier anthem was atrocious. It was aggressive and it made me upset.
I didn't really notice it.
Yeah, it was. It's
But
not
maybe
as
I'm
bad
just
as
not
I'm. It's
remembering.
not
That
as
is
bad
a
as
true
my
nitpick.
drama.
That is a true
Yeah,
nitpick.
it's very.
Actually, I have a music related nitpick. I really like the theme song. I whistle it all the time.
Yep.
But
I really
feel
like the whole intro was really cool too.
Yeah.
it's a great song, but sometimes you hear it probably twice an episode, and it seemed a little like, yeah, okay. Like I've heard this theme a million times now.
Yeah.
Got it kind of overplayed.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I feel like I agree with you, but I just love it so much. It's just like so mysterious and melancholy and intriguing. What's going on?
Who is she?
What's going on in there? Who is she playing that piano?
Here's a hit pick.
But wait, while we're still in the intro, the graphic that was one of my hit picks. Is just like the animation style.
I
in the
love
yeah,
it.
that's a
It's
sweet intro.
Like all goopy and
Yeah.
it's cool.
Apparently Ben Stiller saw an artist on Instagram who like made animations like that, and he reached out, and then he's like based in Germany, and he just like got him in, and they made the. I love how it's like the animation itself doesn't really look realistic, but it's the motions that make it realistic. It's like a mocap situation,
yeah.
and so I mean you see this sometimes on like these sort of like wacky Japanese news segments where they like do like this 3D animated stuff, but they have people do mocap for them. So it looks like really, really bad video game graphics, but because the motions are so realistically human, it makes it just so much more interesting
I didn't
to
think
look
it's
at.
mocap. It looked like an engine to me. They look a little rubbery. It's very good.
Well, I'm sure there are some like actual animation going on, but I think that a lot of the stuff where he's like looking around like, oh, what? Like it just seemed like really like human natural type of stuff. But
And I love the it's very creative.
What I don't know if it's a hit pick or a nitpick, but the like retro style on the computers.
Yeah, they kind of it's like retrofuturism.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it kind of ambiguous as to when it happens. Like
Yeah.
we know they have smartphones.
yeah,
They're also flip phones exist. They've got these CRT terminals in Lumen.
I
Maybe
liked
that's
it-
only on the severed floor.
Maybe I liked it most of the time. When it annoyed me was the reward when Helly finishes the
that was so funny.
the reward, and it's like an 8-bit thing of Kears Morgan be like, "You did it, Helly R."
Yeah, I love you.
Yeah, it was like
Now I'm needed elsewhere, and he spreads his arms and flies away. But at the same time, I was like, I also thought that was like, okay, this is a little much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, wait, these guys, they've never played video games before. They don't know anything except what they experience on this floor. So to them, that's probably like, whoa, this is so cool, like, or it could be to
Yeah.
people who weren't in a revolutionary mindset already.
fair.
I just thought that was so funny.
There's a bit of Helly foreshadowing. I'm one of the people who did not see that twist coming at all.
No.
Her being
Oh, yeah, me
Egan.
neither.
Miss Egan. Yeah, you're
Some
like,
people did, but when I rewatched the first episode, which is the only one I rewatched, there's a bit where when she's giving the video clip to her innie, telling her to like behave basically, and she's not going to resign. When she ends the video clip, she says, "Turn off the camera." It's a directive.
Ah,
It kind of implies she's in charge.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
good.
wrote, I'm like, from that thing, I'm like, oh, she's gonna be her Audi will be a villain in some way. I did not see her being an Egan at all.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, her Audi seemed kind of like psychotic.
yeah, there's like something, there's something up.
to receive a resignation petition and just to be like, no.
Yeah,
To the CRT and the old technology and stuff. That was very interesting because for a few episodes there, I was kind of like, wait, so when is this supposed to take place? The cars all look kind of old too,
Yeah.
but they have smartphones and stuff. So I think I think what people have the prevailing theory seems to be that they use old technology on the Severance floor to prevent themselves from like being hacked and stuff.
Oh, I see.
Because it's like, yeah.
Hit pick is the color scheme of the show.
And also, sorry, and HitPick related to that. Apparently, the computers actually work. They actually
That's
made
cool.
the program so the actors were actually using
That's
the mouse
neat.
and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
it
actually
totally looks like
helpful.
Go ahead.
HitPick is the color scheme. Like inside, it's all like
Yeah.
this
70s.
green 70s. But then there's like these moments of red inside, and I'd want to. I'm excited for someone to do a breakdown of what the colors mean because clearly, like they have significance. Like they have this red ball, and then later there'll be the red eggs.
Yeah.
And like the way they change the color when the dance party happens, it's like there's a red light, but then at the bigger higher party, it's a magenta and blue color tone. So
Yeah.
they're purposefully changing the color schemes, and it seems like at very specific points. And I'm very excited for someone to do a breakdown of what it all means. So,
So I saw sort of a breakdown of this. I mean, it was
Oh.
it was one of the things they were talking about, and they said that the red and blue sort of represent because we see a lot of red clash with blue type of things. Helly has red hair and she wears blue dresses a lot, and there are other times like the party and stuff. And so they were like, a lot of the times it's using red and blue to sort of oh, and also one of the very early shots when Mark is backing his car out of the parking lot, it's this top-down shot, and the parking lines are just going straight across the middle of the screen. And on one side, we see a blue car, and the other side is a red car. And he's in the middle. He's driving a gray car, and it's oh, he's
So
neutral.
it's like the schism in your mind.
Yeah, you're being severed. It's representing one side and the other side. And then it's also kind of this is what this person said. I don't know if it works or not, but they were it kind of recalls the sort of wake up from the dream world type of thing of the Matrix,
Yeah.
the red pill and the blue pill. I don't know. I love that stuff, even
Yeah.
though I'm kind of I don't know if that's why they're doing it, but it kind of works. It's
Totally.
when you need to do a breakdown in English Lit 12.
totally. Well, and it's even if you don't know what it means, you know that it's purposeful. And I feel like the whole show is very intentional. There's no random. There's no
There's so many things in the background.
Someone actually asked that in the AMA of because there's some big fans of the show who are picking apart everything.
Yeah.
And they asked them specifically are there any known continuity errors that you'll disclose so that we can stop agonizing over the fact that your watch that the Audi wears when he puts it in the drawer has a different time on it than the other one.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
the day is advanced by a day
Oh.
or something like that.
I didn't even know that.
And the writer replied this show is 100% perfect in every way. And so it's is that a joke or is that kind of a wink that there are continuity errors? I
You
don't
can't really know because obviously they're invested in having people pour over the details and become
Yeah.
obsessed with the
That's
show.
what I think.
I
that's
actually
what
have
would
no
be.
idea why he even switches watches. Why does he switch timepieces? He's
I
off
think
at 5.
There's extra information that the other watch gets.
Yeah.
It's just contraband.
Well, and I think it's there's the danger of
There are symbols in the
code.
watch.
I think it's
The
also
moon
the code,
phase.
the code reader would have trouble with the watch, maybe.
Or maybe it's just you have approved apparel. There's
Yeah.
approved
Yeah.
devices.
Fair.
That's probably what it is.
I guess so. One thing is here's a huge hit pick, which is super visual. Right off the top of this show, he's kind of when he comes onto the separate floor for the first time and he's walking and it's all jaunty and the music's all jaunty and he really looks like this kind of model employee within his demeanor and his dress and he's this clean cut white guy.
Yeah.
But he's not clean cut. His hair is a little too long.
Yeah.
And it kind of just shows he's unwell.
He's not quite shaven. He's not quite clean shaven
He,
either.
he needs a haircut.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just a great touch.
It's a good touch.
That's also, I feel just Adam Scott's normal vibe is to have kind of shaggy hair going on. But I love Adam Scott.
I
Yeah,
want to
he's
shout
good.
out all the actors are really good on the show. There was no one that took me out of it. Melchick is so charming but evil.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
So
Scary in that way.
Dillon, Zach Cherry is the
Yeah.
actor. It's so hilarious. I love how he's just that was consistently one of the things that can sort of maybe cause what do you call it? Kind of to take you out of it a little bit. The fact that these guys, all they've ever known is this job, but at the same time, he's so sassy and he kind of is memeing around with them and stuff. And I'm I don't know how much of that personality you would retain.
Yeah,
being
well,
in
that's
prison.
that's one of the things that kind of, if you think about it hard, it does make sense. But he's
But I think
hilarious
that-
when he's I imagine my Audi bangs all these MILFs and I feel bad for the husband.
Yeah, he's I feel like my Audi does muscle shows. Are muscle shows a thing? They don't even know if it's a thing, but he's he got a caricature of one of the rewards is getting a caricature of yourself done, and one of them is him doing a muscle show. Whatever that is.
Hit pick. And I don't actually, you might disagree with this because it's kind of like a contrivance, but when Cobell takes the baby, they can't find the baby. They think that Cobell has the baby. in that last episode, and then she's speeding, driving the car recklessly.
Wait,
and
we never find out where the baby
Yeah,
is.
it's at the party.
But she's driving recklessly.
Oh, right,
she
they
gets
find
to
the
the
car.
she gets to the building. She gets out of the building, and the valets notice that her car wasn't put in park, and it's rolling. By this point, we don't know where the baby is. It's implying that the baby is in this rolling away car, and then they just find the baby in another room.
Yeah.
Like you
That's
think that's cheap?
I think it's cheap.
Oh, really?
I was along for the ride. I
Yeah?
was like, oh my god? Question mark?
Yeah, I think I mean, so
You guys
okay, so
have had babies. I hate babies.
it did feel a little bit cheap, I guess, but like as a mechanism for Mark to find the picture of his wife or whatever. But it was also really interesting because this is maybe one of the more out there theories, but like the guy that finds the baby, Mark finds the baby. And he's like, hey, the baby's in here. And the other guy's like, oh, there it is. I found the baby. I found it. And the guy like takes credit for finding the baby.
Oh, that's the guy from the dinner party.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that dinner party either. Because they're
So-
not eating food? What was up with that?
I think they had already eaten food, or maybe it was like
I thought it was like a protest
fasting
thing.
thing?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a spirit. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Something to do with
or
Rick
just like
and,
a-
Rick and
Yeah,
stuff.
a meditation thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But one of the theories that I saw was that those people at the dinner party seem kind of dumb. Like the one guy's like, what I never understood is why they never called World War One World War One. At the time they just called it the Great War, and everyone's like, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And Mark is like, they called it the Great War because there hadn't been World War II yet.
Yeah.
And he's
like,
they're like
everyone at the
oh,
table is like,
yeah,
oh, you're a smart one.
And
But
so-
including Devin
yeah. Did she do that?
and Rickon too. Like they're all like, good thinking.
Yeah. So one
What
of
the hell's up
one,
with that?
one of the theories was that these are all ex-severed employees, and their minds have been kind of like boggled a little bit. I don't know about that.
think so.
I feel like it was more just kind of like as a funny thing to underscore the idea that like Rickon is this like faux intellectual, and they've surrounded themselves with these people who are like, yes, we're elite deep thinkers,
Great
but they
Wall.
like don't actually think about things very
Fair,
deeply.
fair.
Unlike me, so.
That reminded me of a nitpick though, was that in the final episode when Mark's like trying to tell his sister what's going on, and she's like, "Oh, just wait, I'm busy right now."
Yeah, that's
just wait, I'm
fun.
busy.
Like, I would just grab her damn arm.
Yeah, I was like, dude, this is important. This is life or death for not just you, but for a whole
Yeah, but like
bunch of people.
he's never been to a party before. He's never been in the outside world. He doesn't know what the rules
That's
are.
a charitable view.
I think that's a charitable view because I think that based on the portrayal of Severance they've given us, they still have social
Yes.
instinct.
Clearly they do. Yeah.
It's fine.
fair enough.
It is for the tension of the show, and to pace the things that are happening in the multi stories.
Oh, interesting.
But-
They have an actor listed in the IMDb, Mark Geller, as playing Keir Egan, but I don't think we ever see like
There's a
footage
voice.
of him. Is there a voice?
Isn't that her dad?
But he looks like
No,
him.
Or her dad's not Kier.
Like-
Kier's like a forebearer.
That
He
looks
looks like
like
him.
Keir.
It might be the face model
Depictions?
Yeah,
Like maybe he will show up.
Because he's in
I think so.
portraiture and stuff, right?
Yeah.
is there any more hit pick?
I have questions. I have no more hit
Give
picks
me
and
a
nit picks.
question. Give me a question.
Okay, I already asked about the dinner. Why does he switch watches? Okay, I have a question. One remaining question. Why would the nature of their work have to be obscured to them?
Well, I think that's a mystery that will be revealed.
They're already severed.
They're already severed, but I think that we've seen that they take a load of precautions to prevent certain things from happening. So I think it's just like another layer of security.
And I don't know
if they don't have to. Then,
I could see them not having like nailed down what they're doing. They might have like some ideas of what they could be doing, but they're waiting for like the writing process of season 2 to be like, this is what they're doing.
Because
Yeah.
if they're going to be indoctrinating them stuff, and the company believes that this is irreversible procedure, that they're kind of proud in that way, and blind, they have blind spots in that way. You would think that they're just like, they show up to work and they're like, yeah, you guys are chopping up babies all day.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, because
They know, they trust their process.
Yeah.
That may be.
I mean, I feel like from a writing perspective, it's just another way to enable the sort of mystery box, like slow feed of information.
for
Like,
sure,
that's just
this
another
is
thing.
like a suspension of disbelief. Like, that's dumb. Why
Yeah,
not?
yeah,
Although
yeah.
you guys have made some plausible arguments,
Right.
and maybe it's another thing like the perfect Matrix kind of thing, where like it doesn't matter that you wake up on a table and they indoctrinate you, but you're still not going to chop up babies.
yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
just too
fair.
abhorrent.
It's too like deep of a human instinct to not kill a baby lying in front of
I
you.
have one
But
more
they're
nitpick
delicious.
that I found, and it's how long it takes Milchek to cut through that belt. Fuck off, dude. It doesn't take like 20. It takes him like an hour in the thing to cut this belt.
An hour?
Because he keeps cutting to all the other things. If it's real time, and maybe it's not.
No,
but if it's
the whole episode is only an hour. He only gets there like halfway through, maybe.
okay, half an hour. It doesn't take that long.
Yeah, I know,
Maybe
but
5
we're
minutes.
also like switching between the different perspectives, so it's like
And they're
we're
simultaneous.
experiencing 3 times as much time as Milchick is as he's cutting through the thing. So I don't know. Whatever.
It's
I
fine.
feel like
nitpick. It's a nitpick.
I thought it was kind of dumb when Dillon read that it takes 2 people, and he's like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay." I'm
Yeah,
like,
that was
You have no
stupid.
idea.
No fucking
What if those are
Yeah.
across the room from each
Yeah.
other?
it kind of worked for me because he's so overconfident about everything. So I was kind of like, but yeah, I would say that's like a half of a nitpick for me because I'm kind of like, you don't know. I feel like it's funny because like when I watched the show, I feel like I was so into the show and I loved it so much that when it kept cutting back to the belt and he like hadn't quite got through it yet, I was like, I felt relief because I was like, oh, don't cut through the belt.
Well, for sure.
Like, don't get all the way through there. Don't mean the episode is over. Yeah, I was like, let's go. Come on, show me more. Give it to me.
I was excited to put on every episode. It was like
Yeah.
I had to binge it in a week, and I was like, I knew I wanted to watch the show, but I was like, oh, now I have to do it in a short amount of time. But I never was worried about.
I knew
I
it wouldn't
wonder-
be. Riley kept asking like, "So, David, like, how many episodes have you seen yet?" And I was like, "David's gonna love this. David's
Yeah.
gonna lap this up. He'll watch this in 2 days."
Yeah.
I wonder if
yeah.
I wouldn't have loved it so much if I did actually binge it.
Well, that's an interesting question I have. Is I always hear people complain about shows that are released weekly, but I think that it actually enhances the experience. I think being forced to think about an episode that you've watched during a whole week and then get the next one makes the show certainly last in your mind a lot longer, but makes me appreciate a show a lot more.
I hate waiting a week.
Mhm.
Like
You'd rather
that-
have like a 3 days?
that. Well, yeah, or even just like I just like having it available every day because like I only really have time to watch one show a day, so maybe this is just like a very me specific.
No, I'm
thing.
with you. I'm with you.
But like if we like. Maybe if there was a way to limit people to only one episode at a time.
Imagine it was a setting. You get to choose, like, serialize me.
Oh, it
Yeah.
wouldn't work because you'd want to be part of the discussion. I think
Yeah.
it's we all have to be part of the same.
There's no way to offload this responsibility from the individual to the platform to be like, no, it'll be better if you don't watch the next
Well,
one yet.
they do it because it's thin versus thick marketplace, right? Netflix has everything available because they have a thick market. They have
Right.
tons of stuff to watch. Apple TV Plus doesn't have that much stuff to
Right,
watch. It's a
right.
thin marketplace. They got to stretch it out.
Disney
But even
Plus
Netflix,
as well.
their big shows, they're moving to more spaced out. Like they'll do like 2 parts, or they'll do like
Oh, yeah.
like multiple releases of it.
The engagement online thing is definitely
Yeah.
part of it. You want
Yeah.
everyone to be talking about it and tweeting about it.
Well, and it's like and then you can make memes about that specific episode,
Yeah.
and like it makes the show last.
It
and
certainly-
It just
yeah.
seems like it happens more on like your Disney Pluses.
For
and
sure.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to work to get people still talking about the shitty Book of Boba Fett for way longer than they should have been.
Same with
Such
like,
a bad show.
Moon Knight. Like I see people mention, and the take is the show is aggressively okay, but it's like it should have just like came and gone. But it's like
Yeah.
people still talk about fucking Moon Knight.
I haven't heard anyone talk about it since
Yeah.
the last time we talked about
I
it.
haven't seen people talking about it
literally
either.
aggressively okay. I've watched 2 episodes now. I watched the second episode. I watched the first episode when it came out, and then watched the second episode like yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah, I watched the first
It's
one and I
not-
You
was
know
like,
what, guys?
oh,
Hold
no.
on. Let me just play the sound.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of Moon Knight, and I honestly thought it was bad. Like, I thought for Marvel's standards of, like, decent, fun
Yeah.
schlock, it was, like, kind of bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I want to keep watching this. Like, obviously, the whole fantastical premise is interesting to me, but, like, the execution was, like, his accent is
I
on
knew
and
you were
off.
going to be on the accent.
Well, honestly, his accent was a lot better than I expected it to be. When he first started talking, when you
boy.
first hear him, I'm kind of like, okay, I mean, Oscar Isaac isn't as bad as that. But then the more he talks, you're just like, oh, there it is, yeah. My name's Stephen. I'm a real British person.
And it's also just like it's such an uninteresting.
It's just like a little overdone.
I heard people talk about it, but I never knew what the accent was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like kind of Cockney, isn't it? Yeah.
and it's one of those like concepts where I get why they thought putting you in Steven's journey made sense to them, but it's so fucking boring. Like,
Yeah.
just give me Mark and Moon Knight. Just give me the good shit. I don't care about this guy's regular life as a museum attendant.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't know whether the original character is British, but I almost would have liked if I think it would have been better if Oscar Isaac was not like doing a British accent and an American accent. Like, just show me your acting chops without the crutch.
So I've read like a couple random Moon Knight things. Like when I found out that there was a series being made, I was like, oh, I better look into Moon Knight. So I've read random comics, and I didn't know that there was like a British counterpart. Like I knew Mark, and like had died, but had been given power by the Egyptian gods or whatever to be able to be Moon Knight.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend the show. Highly don't recommend.
Yep. I'm watching Sopranos right now for the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that? I'm interested.
Really good.
I haven't seen it.
I mean, it's like there are definitely some parts of it that are a bit dated, but I think I was like after hating the Godfather movies, maybe not hating. Hating is a strong word, but you know how I felt about them. Watching this as a sort of a deconstruction of the idea of mafia and having like mafia people interact with people outside of the mafia and like interrogating what it means to be a mafia person in the modern world. I'm loving it. I'm loving all those themes. And I think what I've just was missing in The Godfather was like there was no real like interrogation about what it means to be mafia people. It was just kind of like,
all inside the box.
Hey, man, this is what we do, and hey, that's the way it is. Bada bing, boom, boom. And in The Sopranos, it's like there's a mafia boss, and he's seeing a psychiatrist because he's depressed. It's like, okay, great, yeah, that's a great.
Yeah,
setup.
well, it's like The Godfather is not postmodern.
No,
whereas The Sopranos, like 33 decades later.
Yeah, I guess it's postmodern. I mean, like it almost doesn't even feel that way because it's like there is a ton of like really what I would describe as more classical traditionalist lessons in there about family and like thinking about your emotions.
It's a modern twist.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of in between modern and postmodern. Sure, yeah,
sure.
Semi-modern.
Yeah. Semi.
I got a semi right now because I got to pee.
I have to pee so bad too.
Yeah, me too.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. This has been They're Just Movies. Next week we're gonna do Northman, the Northman.
I can't believe we settled on that.
You're welcome.
David wanted to see the unbearable weight.
Mass talent.
Maybe we'll still do it.
Nicolas Cage. I want to see it too.
I'm feeling the unbearable weight of doing a movie that I'm less excited about.
Now I feel bad.
I actually am excited. That was a joke. It was like a 6 out of 10 joke.
You are less excited about, but you're still excited about.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go see Unbearable Weight. So maybe I'll give you guys a little capsule review at the end.
But maybe I would rather have David be excited than I would have me be excited.
No, you be excited.
It's something to be excited about. It's gonna be a good movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
All right, you guys can tweet at us at TJMPod. You can email us hello@they'rejustmovies.com, and you can see me naked.
Nope.
You.
OnlyFans
do that.
/ hello carpool boys.
Bye.
Uh,